it's a very interesting thing to consider, right? So the Belt and Road, we sort of set a starting point in 2013, hence the 10-year anniversary this year, because that's when it was first announced. But at the beginning, it didn't include African countries as such. So in Africa, we had a slightly different policy that was focusing on infrastructure and on industrialization, and it had a different name. But when the Belt and Road sort of expanded to cover more and more countries signed Memorandum of Understanding, we see a massive increase in the participation of African countries, specifically around 2018, 2019. And there we see not a particular change in the quality of the work or of the lending or of China's presence. It's really just a transformation of the policy that China was using before in the African context that morphed into becoming Belt and Road. In practice, what does this mean? It means the previous trends continued. So investment that was plateauing already before the Belt and Road Initiative sort of came into Africa, continued to plateau. So we have seen a sort of like a leveling of Chinese investment in Africa in the past 5 years. Similarly, in terms of the lending, we haven't seen like the massive lending that we saw, a few years back. We haven't seen it in the past 2-3 years, partly due to COVID, but also due to the fact that the Chinese policy banks have been a lot more careful about the way they lend. So we see a general trend of, I think, slowing economic interaction after the initial boom in the 2000s and 2010s. And then we see a sort of a engagement that maybe changes and is diversified a little bit. So not so much the state presence with the policy banks, but maybe more, sort of commercial presence, different types of lending, different types of financial flows, and so on and so forth. So we really see a quality change that I would say has little to do with the Belt and Road itself and more to do with how the Chinese economy has changed and the global challenges that it has faced.